I like playing tennis because of the social aspect and the competitive level. The biggest challenge is the regional facilities. They are very good. You need to go through all the pathways in the state level in Melbourne and to get into the all the challenges and ITF tournaments, and then you get recognised.
Phil Shanahan and Director of the Margaret Court Tennis Academy here in Albury-Wodonga, Australia.
So how can you identify which young people at the Academy have a particular talent for tennis?
I suppose I look from past experiences like Sam Groth. At a young age he wasn't the best in Albury, let alone Australia. We'd go away to tournaments. Sam, I took him away as a 14-year-old to the Nationals in Gosford, and he lost first round 6-love, 6-love. Half an hour later I saw Sam out on a practice court practicing, and that's what I look in players. It's got to be, it's got to be something inside them. But if you want to get to the very top, it's got to be something within, something special. Dan has a real passion for the sport. Travels up from Wangaratta to train once, twice a week. For a young guy to do that when he could be out with his mates on a Friday night or Wednesday night in Wangaratta, it says something as well. For young players to be dedicated enough for them to put tennis first before their social life it's a big ask for a teenager. So Dan has that, and he's going to do really well in tennis. Renowned coach in the area too, and he's passionate about the sport. But Dan he'll have his own journey and find his own way. But I have no doubt that he's going to go a long way in tennis. How do I know they're going to make it? Look, it's a tough sport. I think it's the toughest sport in the world. Even Andre Agassi said, well, even a golfer has a caddy to talk to around the course, but a tennis player's got no one. And being an individual sport is so much tougher because obviously you're travelling on your own, and it's a tough life for a young guy and especially a young girl. But how do I know they're going to make it? Boy, I don't. I think it's just basically once you have a poor match or a poor tournament, it's picking yourself up again and having that inner belief that you can go on and continue to grow as a player. Once you have a poor match or a poor tournament, it's picking yourself up again and having that inner belief that you can go on and continue to grow as a player, and more importantly, grow as a person. But chase your dreams, and we ask our players to have short-term goals and long-term goals. But if you can work towards your goals, why do I get up at 7 o'clock every morning or 6:30 every morning to go for a run? Because that's what I need to just get that little bit closer to my dream.
Is that something that you look at as well as their tennis ability and skills? Do you look at that maturity and mental toughness?
The mental toughness, the mental side of the game, I think makes up about 85% of tennis. You look at the top 20, top 50, top 100 players, there's not much difference between them. But you see what Nadal does mentally what he did mentally to his opponents at the French Open. He's just relentless. So, as a player, to know that possibly is going to happen to you in your career, you've got to be, that mental toughness is either going to, you've got to work towards just being tougher each match, or it's going to end your career, I think.
Back to you, Amy.
So to fulfil his dream of being a professional and successful tennis player, what kind of training schedule does Dan need to be committing to, and what are the sorts of things he's going to need to sacrifice?
Yeah, well, obviously his fitness that's got to be done before you get to the court. There's no point going on in matches and coming off and saying I'm not fit enough. So obviously his fitness, his gym work, his workout on the ovals, doing his sprint work and endurance. Obviously his eating habits, and then I suppose getting to the tournaments and planning for those. I think tournaments can be, you go away for a 5-day event and you can have rain in the middle, and what am I going to do while there's a rain delay? I get the skipping rope out, or I do my stretching. There's a lot goes behind the scene in planning to be a great player. And can you ask me the question again?
What are some of the things he's going to have to give up?
Yeah, well, obviously here I spoke about that before in regards to he's just driven a bit over an hour from Wangaratta to be here. Obviously, the sacrifice as regards socially, but we look at it from the point of view of the tennis family is a great family, and he's coming up to meet his friends anyway. So he'll have to leave Wangaratta soon, and he'll have to get to the city where he'll get that consistent competition and train with the best guys. He's then going to have to think about school. Do I go to university first, or do I get a trade first, or have I got the money to be able to travel on the circuit? He's then going to have to, if he decides to go on the circuit, he's going to have to travel overseas for the next 3 to 5 years. Financially, that's going to be really tough. Obviously, his dad's.
What are the disadvantages that kids in this region face if they want to pursue tennis as a career versus the kids in the city?
Yeah, I used to think our kids were disadvantaged from the point of view that we were so far away from tournaments and everything. But now I think we have an advantage. The kids in the city, they can spend 2 hours in traffic and probably travel 2 kilometres. And the kids there, it's really tough in the cities. Whereas our kids here, they've got great facilities. It's 5 minutes to everywhere. And they've got all their mates. We've got about 600 children in the academy, so they've got plenty of friends to be able to hit with. So from that point of view, at a young age, I think our kids have got the advantage over the city kids actually.
I'm done. If you're done.
Anything you want to ask, Tony?
Is that all right? All that?
It's
Yeah,
great. I
fantastic.
particularly loved all that stuff about
Yeah.
what he needs to do and how he's similar build to Alex de Minaur. And
Yeah, and you know what?
Agassi, I
I
thought that was
get
great.
sick and tired of hearing commentators saying, you've got to be 6'2" this day and age to be able. You got to be big, and Alex de Minaur and guys like that. They just prove that hey, this is a great sport. I mean, you can be any size. You've got guys like Karlovic at 7 foot. Like I saw him play at the French last year, and I just couldn't believe how well a big guy can move. And then you got your smaller guys that are under 6 foot that they're out there just battling every day to survive and doing a great job. So it's a sport for all sizes, huh?
I think also what was interesting is you are wearing a regional hat and promoting regional, whereas Sam just on the phone talked about what a disadvantage that was. So we've got a contrast there, which is good. But do you want to say anything more about that?
Look, I think when Sam obviously in the 14s, he lost his first round at the Nationals at Gosford, 6-love, 6-love. In the 16s, he actually, and another boy from Yarrawonga that we were coaching, Patrick Nichols, the two of them played off in the National Grass Court 16s final. And that was pretty special, regional Australia. And of course then Tennis Australia saw these two guys. And John Fitzgerald invited both of them down to Melbourne. And Paddy Nichols, unfortunately, was injured and ended up with stress fractures and ended his tennis career. But he was a phenomenal player. And Sam at 16 has arrived at Melbourne Park and gone, how good is this? Whereas a lot of the kids in Melbourne, I think, are down there at an early age, and they go to Melbourne Park and train every afternoon, and it's just same old for a lot of them. Whereas our regional kids, when they hit the big city and walk into Melbourne Park and they can train there, it's probably like going to Disneyland. I think it's just amazing. So, from the point of view of what age to send our regional kids down there. Look, while we're bringing big events, we have the Margaret Court Cup here now, we have the Rex Hartwig Cup, we have the Victorian Grass Court Championships. I'm looking to start a new tournament next year, which is going to be phenomenal, to name after our other local great, Di Fromholz. Di Fromholz, most people wouldn't even know who Di Fromholz was. Well, we had Margaret Court, obviously a number one woman athlete from this area, but Di Fromholz got to number 4 in the world. So, she was playing during the time of Chris Evert-Lloyd and Martina Navratilova and has beaten those players. So, so to bring big events to our regional areas, our kids do get that competition because I know the city kids love coming up here to Albury-Wodonga and training and playing in tournaments. So, I think the regional setup's doing pretty good.
Excellent. So do I, by the way.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Sam probably thinks, I went down at 16. Could have gone a little earlier, maybe, but I remember seeing his face when he walked into Melbourne Park. I was there with him, and he's gone, wow, how good's this? And I think, maybe if he had been there at 12, he might have been tired of the place at 16, 18. I don't know, but I think they're all a bit different too. The kids, some kids are up to an early move, and some kids aren't. So, and I love to keep the family unit together. That's probably more important than the game itself, actually.
Excellent. Thanks, Phil.
Hope that all works.
No, that was great.
Hi, I'm Sam Groth. I'm a former professional Australian tennis player with a career high ranking of 53 in singles and 24 in doubles. I represented Australia in Davis Cup and was a member of the 2016 Australian Rio Olympic team.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, so my first question is, what made you decide to start training in Albury as a young person?
I grew up in regional Australia, regional New South Wales. I grew up in Cholera, and then I think transitioned over to Albury when I was about 12 years old. I started going to high school there, and I grew up playing tennis on the Albury grass courts, and it's a very fond memory for me growing up there and growing up in that regional environment.
And why did you choose Albury?
I think Albury was a family choice. Cora was a town that's not too far away, but it's very limited in population and schools and I guess opportunities. Albury in the area has more of all that side of things, even though it's still regional Australia. A large number of schools and a lot more sporting opportunity as well, which I think was important to my family.
What are some of the disadvantages of being a junior in regional Australia versus the opportunities that the young people have that live in the major city centres?
I think one of the biggest disadvantages of a regional area is the lack of competition. Just from a purely numbers point of view, the amount of other kids you have to compete against is quite reduced. You have to travel a fair distance to be able to get quality competition against a lot of varied opposition. So that for me is probably the biggest disadvantage of growing up in a regional area.
When you were young, what were some of the things that you've had to give up as a young person in order to pursue a career in tennis?
When I was young, I still made sure that I had a very balanced lifestyle. I think it's something that helped me down the track with my tennis. I still played footy up until I was almost 16, and before I moved out of Albury to Melbourne, I stayed in high school until I moved away. I made sure I still had time with my friends and that side of things. You give up bits and pieces. I did have to travel quite a bit to tournaments and time away from friends and family, and I think that continued through my whole career. You move away, you move overseas to chase a dream, and you give up, some of those close personal relationships you have to build. But, that started from a young age, but at the same time, I made sure that I was able to do a lot of that stuff, and I think that kept me in good stead for the rest of my career as well.
How do you differentiate a young person with talent versus a person who's really going to make it as a pro?
I think it's hard to differentiate someone with talent to who's going to really make it. It's such a long journey, and I think it comes down to how much the individual wants to really do that, the work ethic, and I think sometimes the person behind it is the biggest key, and what their driving factors are, and who's really driving it. You want a kid or a talent, that's really driven, and not someone behind that driving. Then you want someone who the actual person is the one driving, their success.
So what's your tip for kids that are living in regional areas such as the Albury-Wodonga area? What can they do to really give themselves a good shot at making it as a tennis career?
I think kids growing up in Albury-Wodonga, keep working at it. You have access to a lot of facilities up there. You have a great tennis community with amazing coaches and people who are driven in the sport, but also the opportunity to grow up with access to a lot more open space and good summer weather. But I'd also, if the chances do, arise to test yourself against the best in other regions, venture out and pick those opportunities. But most of all, just enjoy what you're doing. For me, that was the biggest thing in my whole career, and one of the things that pushed me to be the best was I was enjoying the whole journey. So that's probably the biggest one.
Okay.